Hey everyone, Vinayak here. I'm using an AMD 5800X in my main desktop and this processor is known to run notoriously hot. This Deepcool Castle 240 RGB does its best to keep temperatures under control, but on full load it just crosses the 90-degree mark. As the temperatures increase, there are chances of the processor throttling and you get lower performance. To rectify that, I'm upgrading to the Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 360 A-RGB. I've heard a lot of nice things about this cooler, so let's test it out and see if it performs better than the Deepcool Castle 240. This is the Arctic Liquid Freezer 2 360 A-RGB. That's a mouthful. It is compatible with both Intel and AMD sockets, but be informed, it doesn't support Threadripper. It's compatible with most manufacturer RGB software like Asus Aura Sync, Gigabyte's RGB Fusion, MSI Mystic Light, and ASRock's Polychrome Sync. A 6-year limited warranty is offered by Arctic. There is no manual in the box and this QR code here redirects you to their website. So you will need a device on hand to have the manual accessible. Let's open up the box and we have access to the pump first. This here is a small embedded fan which helps keep the VRMs cool. Have not seen this on any other cooler. It's a 40mm blower and can run at speeds between 1000 to 3000 RPM. As pumps generally block air supply to the VRM heatsinks, this would help keep the motherboard's power delivery system cool. Here's the cold plate, which internally has micro-skewed fins. The size of the copper plate offers solid coverage for most current Intel and AMD processors. Here's a set of mounting hardware for both AMD and Intel. Choose appropriately. It comes with a small 0.8 gram tube of MX5 thermal paste, which is one of the best thermal pastes from Arctic. They say it's good enough for 2 installations if you use the small dot method. These are the mounting screws and other hardware. Let's get to the radiator. Whoa, this is one thick radiator. It's all black and comes with the fans pre-installed in an exhaust configuration. The radiator is 38mm thick and has the Arctic logo on it. The fans have integrated cable management as visible here. They are daisy chained and you have shrink wrap over the connectors. All that runs to the fiber tubes and terminates to one A-RGB and one PWM connector. No hubs required. Just connect these two to the motherboard and the pump, fans and RGB all work, reducing clutter. My Deepcool Castle 240 provided 2 hubs, one for RGB and the other for PWM, and had 3 sets of wires for each fan going to these hubs. The single cable on the Arctic Liquid Cool 360 makes cable management so much easier. The radiator is aluminium and thicker than usual. I will have to test fit it in the case before installation. This is Arctic's in-house designed pump. It is PWM controlled and rated for speeds between 800 to 2000 RPM. The block is big and the housing looks like a spaceship. Different mounting plates are provided, such as this one for Intel, but as I have an AMD build, I will need to use the standard backplate provided by the motherboard manufacturer. These retention plates are for AMD. I have heard a lot of horror stories on how complicated it is to install this cooler, so let's see if that's actually true. Not sure what these stickers are for, and these are the brackets that go onto the pump. An assortment of screws and spacers is available. Don't worry, as we need only a few from these. This packet is important as it contains the screws for mounting the brackets onto the pump. Let's check the manual out on the phone. It's laid out quite well. Just select your socket type and there you go. I'm installing for AMD, so it needs these 2 retention plates to be installed on the motherboard. Take note of the shape of the curve within the retention plates as it needs to be installed in this orientation. The manual has animations detailing the installation process, but this just indicates screws and not which ones and where. First time installers would be confused. These are the fans pre-installed on the radiator, which are Arctic's own 120mm P12 PWM fans. These are fluid dynamic bearing units and are rated for speeds between 200 to 1800 RPM. And these are the pre-cable managed fans. The radiator has 2 fiber reinforced EPDM rubber tubes, which are 450mm long and connect to the pump from the top. These tubes cannot be angled, which could hamper the orientation in which the radiator can be fitted. Now to start the installation, I need to first remove my existing AIO, so I am running a benchmark to loosen the thermal paste. My existing radiator is 240 mm by Deepcool, and this is how thick the radiator is. Here's the pump. It's not lighting up for some reason. A cable must have come loose, which is a downside of having multiple cables for RGB and PWM. Anyway, as I'm uninstalling it, I'm not going to troubleshoot this. It should be hot enough now. Let's uninstall the pump. The CPU still came off with the pump, but I got a chance to clean it thoroughly and install it back on the motherboard. Now for the radiator and its array of RGB and PWM cables. Let's test fit and see if the pump and radiator would fit within. This is the Cooler Master TD500 mesh cabinet to give you an idea of the space within. Okay, I'm having problems with the radiator hitting the rear exhaust fan. I have to remove it before I can install the radiator. Okay, fits like a glove now. Make sure to install the pump and connect the RGB and PWM connectors before installing the radiator, as it's thick and you would lose access to the headers on the motherboard. Install the bracket onto the pump, and as I said earlier, the screws to mount the bracket onto the pump are within this small packet here. Ready. The AMD retention plates have a number of holes which allow the pump to be installed offset from the center. This is helpful on AMD processors as the center of the cold plate has the best performance. Offsetting it to where the actual hotspots are on the CPU will help keep it cooler. And this is more for Ryzen 3000 and 5000 CPUs, else use the holes marked number 1 for standard AMD mounting. This here is the standard backplate included with the motherboard. We're going to install the pump retention plates onto it. It goes from the back like so, and we have access to these screw holes here. Add the spacers and then place the retention plate on top. You need to hold the back plate up as it would fall off. I am placing the cabinet in a lying down orientation so that it's easier to install. It can be installed when placed vertically too. Also make sure which retention plate goes where, as these are different. Retention plate 1 done, and retention plate 2 done. Now we use the thumb screws to mount the pump onto the retention plate. But before that I have to apply thermal paste to the CPU. A drop is generally enough, but I am using the 5-dot method. Remove the protective plastic film off the cold plate and install the pump. VRM fans pointing up. This is the orientation recommended in the guide and is understandable as it's the only way the VRMs would be cooled by the fan on the pump. Using the thumb screws to hold the pump down, I tighten the screws across from each other to get an even pressure, and the thermal paste also spreads evenly. Connect the CPU PWM header onto the motherboard and also the A-RGB header. Now for the radiator. It goes in easily, and then using the provided washers and screws, mount it down. Now for the first boot. Fingers crossed. The fans are spinning. Even the VRM fan is spinning. RGB lighting on the fans are also active, and the system is booting. This is how it looks within the system, and here are the 3 120mm fans on the radiator, and here's the pump. The capacitors here are too close for comfort. Let me check how much of a clearance we have using a piece of paper. More than enough clearance. Even a small manual fits through here. Okay, the system is up and running. So now we need to know just how much better a 360 rad works as compared to a 240 rad. This is my current configuration. Ryzen 7 5800X. Motherboard is the Gigabyte X570 Aorus Elite. RAM is 16x4 64GB at 3600 MHz. And GPU is the Inno3D RTX 2070 Super. Cabinet is the Cooler Master TD500 Mesh. I have Lienli AL120 Unifans as front intakes, and I had to remove my Noctua NF F12, which was my exhaust, to be able to fit the bigger radiator. PSU is a XPG core reactor 80 plus gold 850 watt power supply. OS is Windows 11 Pro. My CPU and GPU are running at stock settings. These are the temperature differences when running Cinebench R23. The Arctic liquid cooler is keeping the CPU temps under 90 degrees, and the Cinebench scores have gone up by around 700 points. Premiere while rendering, the temps are very well controlled and the render time shave off a few seconds. And now for gaming. This is Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Cyberpunk 2077, Genshin Impact, Grand Theft Auto 5. RGB control works via the motherboard software and we can change the colors as we want. No need for any other software or controller hub. I can also use the Gigabyte Smart Fan 5 software to control the fans on the AIO. The fans on the AIO are really quiet too. If I have the ceiling fan in the room on, I almost can't hear it. And this is how the fan sounds at different speeds. This is low, medium, and high. The Arctic liquid cooler helps lower the temps by a few degrees, especially idle temps. This keeps the system more stable and we can also pull a bit more performance out of our existing components. The fans are not noticeably audible unless we listen in closely. And cooling performance, this is one of the best rated AIOs at its price range. It of course managed to beat my 240mm Deepcool AIO by a few degrees, which is the difference between a stable system or a system with frequent crashes or black screens. I did have a few black screens on the Deepcool at times, which is why I wanted to upgrade the AIO. The 5800X does run hotter than the higher core count 5900X and 5950X, and the RGB on the fans are really bright, illuminating the insides of my case quite well. 6 years limited warranty, have to see limited to what, but if for manufacturing defects, it is still a good deal. The pre-installed fans with the cable management is a blessing as we don't need to wrestle with multiple cables, and the MX5 thermal paste is a good addition. Installation was not as complicated as I thought it would be, and it was complete within a few minutes. A lot of time went looking for the screws more than the actual installation. So do you use an AIO on your desktop? Which one do you use, and do you feel I could have purchased a better one at this price point? Make sure to comment below. So that was the video. Make sure to like, subscribe, and also hit the notification bell to be notified when new videos are added. Thank you for watching and see you all next time.